Hello. Today we played a game called the Game of Thrones, which makes it sound like I actually follow the Game of Thrones, but I do not. I just knew that it happened yesterday, and so it seems like an appropriate way to deal with this rather fatal game that actually has a cool historical context. I didn't tell people about it in class, but it came from, I think, maybe the Bible. At least some historical story where there was a guy who was in a group of prisoners and they were being told, like, this is how we're going to execute you. You have to execute, each person has to execute the person in front of them, which means that there ended up being this like skipping. And so there was one place where you end up being the one where there's no one left to execute you and you're the one person left standing. So a pretty brutal thing. It's called the Josephus problem. And we decided to play it in a less fatal way that we called the Game of Thrones. So, as a reminder, or if you've never played the Game of Thrones before, the way this works is that all the players stand in a circle. For us, it was a big circle around the room. Once you are in your place, you have to stay in your space. You have owned it, it is now yours. I gave the ball to one person, and that person got to pass to their right. So you are always passing to the right, which means we're going around the circle, I guess counterclockwise. But this is the catch. When you pass to the right, you do not pass the ball to the person next to you. You have to pass over the person next to you, skipping them and thus kind of making them out or killing them. And so that person then just kind of sinks down so that they are clearly not in eye level with everybody else, and the game continues. And so you kind of keep doing this, hop around. Eventually you'll come back to that original person, and now the hops are going to be bigger because you have like spaces in between people, but you still have to hop over one person, skip one person with the ball each time. So we had classes of 22, 23, and 24, which was kind of cool because we got to see that with these different classes, there ended up being a different place or a different not a different strategy, but a different place that you would want to stand to be that one winner in the Game of Thrones. A lot of people gravitated to a picture for this. It felt like it made sense, I think, to people because you could keep track of all of the individuals. And 22, 23 people did not feel overwhelming for drawing a picture. I think if I said immediately, now do it for 100 people, that might be a lot to try to like draw a picture out for 100. Nobody tried to make a simpler problem for this, and so I'm going to show a simpler problem because every class did have a different class size, 22, 23, 24. So I'm going to simplify it down just to, if it were a 10-person circle, what would this game look like? So if it were a 10-person circle, we had several teams that decided to say that the starting player, doesn't really matter where in the circle they are, the starting player is just one. And some people drew it as a line, but I really liked the circles because it helps you keep track of the fact that you are going in this circle. So if we have one here, and then one is passing to the one's right, so one is facing inside and passing to the right, we would have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a wacky circle. So the ball is going to start with number 1. They are our starting player. I'll put an S here for start. And they're going to take the ball and they're going to pass over 2. So 2 is now out. 3 has the ball, passes it to the 5th person, which means that the 4th person is out. And this continues, and students noticed that all of the even numbered players, if you were in an even slot, you were out immediately. So it was not a good idea to be in an even space. People also noticed that very quickly a lot of the group was decimated, was gone. So we have 9, and then we are going to jump over 10, and we are back at 1. So now that we're back at 1, you can see these bigger jumps a little bit better, because 1 has to go past 3, skip 3, and go to 5. Okay? So 1 is going to skip all the way over 3, which means that 3 is out. I'm using different colors just to kind of keep track of time. And then 5 needs to skip all the way over 7 and go to 9. So we're going to skip 7, go to 9. 9, oof, I'm going to give another color because we're starting to go back around the circle again. 9, 1, and 5 are the only players left. So we're at 9. 9 has to skip 1, go all the way around, and go to 5. Which means 1 is out. And now 5 and 9 are the only ones playing. 5 has the ball. 5 has to skip 9, which means like go around 9 and come back to 5. So 9 is out. So in a 10-player game, wherever the first player is, you want to be the 5th player in that row. So the first player, second, third, fourth, you want to be the 5th in this case. The 5th player is not always the best place to be. It depends on how many players are in the game. And what we're going to look at tomorrow is what patterns can we see as you change the number of people in the games so that we can start to generalize so that you don't have to draw it out every time. Because you don't want to draw it out for 64 people. You don't want to draw it out for 100 people. What can we notice so that we can make this work a little bit better? But I enjoyed the Game of Thrones. Students told me it was rigged and that I was cheating, which is always a fun way for a game to go. But they did some really, did some really interesting work. And I liked seeing that you started going to those strategies that we've talked about, like drawing a picture. So don't forget, Thursday you've got a concept test, and on that test you're going to need to apply strategies like this, drawing a picture. Have a good night.